Student-inspired learning, rethinking education. This is my story and how I want to revolutionize the learning space for everyone. Back in 2020, I felt like I accidentally prayed in the pandemic. Right before the closures, we were wrestling our middle son to go to school. We would often have to carry him in through the school doors, crying. He would frequently try to take off, and even when he was in the classroom, he would just go to the corner, not want to be there. We tried every intervention available at this school, and all the counseling and all the therapy to try to help him, but honestly, things seemed like they were only getting worse. There was a lot going on during that time that compounded the stress. My spouse and I at the time were separated and living in different condos. It was a time of betrayal, heartbreak, and turmoil for me. My nervous system was completely shot, and I was a mental health mess. I just longed for everything to just come to a halt, like to slow down so we can all reconnect. But how? How could I possibly slow down the seemingly non-stop demands of the world? Then the shutdown happened. It literally brought to pass exactly what my soul craved. I got to be home with the kids. All the hustle and bustle suddenly disappeared. Our main point of contact became each other. It inspired us to move into a home together, even though, we were still separated. The circumstances helped us make the decision to homeschool, something I really wanted, but I didn't think could even be possible with the direction we were going. It was so many of the things I secretly wanted, all of us home, learning, loving together at our own pace and in our own way. It was such a huge relief in so many ways, and I loved it. I began to have desire for my kids to have a touch of formal instruction with other kids, so I set up little art classes where I invited a few other students to learn art with us. I decided to call it Set4life Academy. I had been inspired to set up a learning center with that name for a long time, actually. SET was my initials at the time, Soraya Esther Tate, or I guess now, with my last name changing because I am recently remarried, Soraya Esther trademark. But more than that, I believe that Set for Life is a state of connectedness with your highest self. And in that state, it becomes easy to create all that we desire. I wanted to teach students how to connect with that. And the simple art lessons were a small way to start with my bigger vision. I started teaching very traditionally by creating a curriculum of what we would learn. For instance, we had an art principles class where I talked about concepts such as like composition, shading, color theory, and I prepared a small project for students to practice each principle. At the end of each unit, I would have my students come up with their own project where they could implement all the principles that they had learned. And then I had this like little art gallery where friends and family could come see their masterpieces. And after doing that for a while, I decided to just switch to like a private, semi-private setup structure and recognize that even better than and more engaging way to learn is to start off with the end project instead of leaving it for the end. That way, the student is really excited about what they learned and they get to practice all the principles along the way. It's what I called student-inspired learning. And, after doing some research, it's not entirely novel. Maybe you've heard of student-directed learning or After doing research, I found that colleges commonly implement this as project-based mentorship. I loved it because students can learn all the principles needed while focusing on a project that they were passionate about. And you pair them up with a mentor, and they're simply someone who's slightly more experienced and who guides students through projects and connects students to resources and options they otherwise wouldn't have, and helps the learner make considerations they otherwise wouldn't have made. So the focus is heavily on the student and what he or she wants, which something I often told my student is, this is your project, so make sure it's something you really want to do. I love to give full ownership and control to my students because it means full investment and true internal drive for them to complete it. So it's no longer creating because the teacher wants the students to do something, but rather creating because the student is genuinely interested and excited about the project. The mentor simply provides some direction, resources, helps the student stay on track, and helps give the student information they otherwise wouldn't have. It just felt so right. The kids I got to work with came up with some incredible things. And the best part is it just felt like it aligned with the flow of life. There was no forcing or coaxing. It was just trusting them and their process and their desires. In October of 2021, our divorce was finalized. It wasn't anything I ever wanted for my family. It just felt so unfair to have innocent children have to suffer the consequences of an adult decision like this. I soon realized if my goal was to inflict the least amount of damage on my kids, the least I could do was to do my best to preserve a good relationship with their dad. Their dad and I worked closely and respectfully to raise them. In fact, he even rented out my basement during this transition period. Having our kids under one roof meant the world to me while going through this phase. We were both available to them as they needed us. I was primarily homeschooling, and he was working from home. It was awesome to get his interjections during lunchtime or in passing. He's a scientist/engineer, and I come from a more expressive and creative mind. So I always felt like we provided the full spectrum of personality traits for the kiddos, and the kiddos had access to both of us, and that was super fantastic. Fast forward to the beginning of 2023. I started to date an amazing guy named Ben. I took a break from the academy for the summer to travel and date Ben. I was also motivated to focus on my peekaboo bag business as it was getting some support from Ben and his brother because they're both business owners and they were providing some direction on how to scale it. And plus, I felt like it was an important part of the Set4life Academy mission for me to grow my biz. So I believe the personal development of hands-on experience of creating and fully scaling a business meant I could also teach others to do the same. I mean, the whole academy is about having ideas and learning how to bring those ideas to life and ultimately contribute to others. So to keenly understand how to bring an idea to market in a way that could also sustain you and your family, it just felt so vital. So for that reason, I felt like I needed to go all in for a bit and couldn't focus on both the academy and the business just yet. So I got some direction, a bit of traction in my business, but I still kept feeling this pull towards the Set4life Academy, but I wasn't fully clear on it. I remember one time my mom, she's an angel of my life, always trying to support me and help me out. But she would say Soraya, forget about your bag business. You need to focus on education. You have a talent for it. And I was hesitant. I just thought it would just be, because up to that point, it was just me growing it. I'm like, it'd be so hard to grow it with just me. And my mom, well, she would respond well, you could hire people and they could help you teach. And honestly, just thinking like having that idea of contributing to yet another learning institution and like hiring teachers and training them to work there just seems so unappealing. I already had a kid who refused to go to school, which, by the way, he was diagnosed with autism, and more specifically, he has a condition called PDA, or pathological demand avoidance. Or I guess in friendlier terms, he has like a persistent demand for autonomy. But if you if you were to look it up, his picture could seriously be on there. You would understand why he refused so badly. Like, his entire neurotype is having a persistent demand for autonomy, which basically means his nervous system is activated when people tell him what to do. So if you can imagine being at school all day and having an adult tell him what to do was incredibly debilitating. And also very tricky to parent, if you can imagine. You can't tell them what to do. Like, they need autonomy, and they perceive everyone as an equal, like no one is above another, which is super interesting. And I want to kind of do like a whole podcast about this. But anyway, my third child too, he's not terribly suited to sit in the classroom all day. So to have yet another school to add to what I saw as a place that didn't really fit every child or even align with the ideals I had when considered what I want for a place of education, you can see why that didn't really seem appealing. Not sure what shifted. I remember a few days before my big shift, I had gone camping with Ben, and we were both so out of it. I was vibing in a really low place. I've become aware that sometimes this will happen before a huge surge of inspiration. Perhaps as a way of the mind and body processing old things in order to receive new knowledge and insight. Not sure. And I'll be honest, what triggered this shift started with an email to my Set4life Academy inbox from the Education Innovators Association. It reminded me that the Utah Fits All program, by the way, if you're in Utah, this program allows parents to direct the state portion of education funding to personalize your child's education and can be used for a variety of choices. It's available for families to use in the 24-25 school year. If you want to learn more, I'll add more information and links in the description. And the window, by the way, is open right now and will close April 15th, 2024. So hurry fast if you are just barely hearing about this and are interested. So anyway, they basically emailed me saying that there would be support for businesses like mine. But all of that set aside, it reminded me that the education space was going through a drastic evolution. And we are all on the cusp of that big change. I mean, we've all known for a while that the public education system is no longer optimally serving students as well as it could. Well-meaning teachers and administrators are doing their best. However, the ever-changing needs of society are challenging the model itself to change. And I believe we are at a significant cusp of that change. So allowing families to have direct access to the fund allotted to students allows for families to have way more flexibility and education options. So it became really clear that families and the education space is looking for businesses like mine. And I happen to be one of those families looking for personalized education. I mean, I have a child whose condition is school resistance, where traditional schools, despite their best efforts, could not accommodate our child well. This, and above all, I felt like I had possibly found a secret sauce for learning, or more tuned into how most of us learn, which is very much based on our passions. It really prompted me to ask the question, if I could design an academy to support all sorts of students in their passions and honestly fulfill the purpose of not just education, but of life, what would it look like? Okay, this is what I came up with. So first, I'm going to outline 4 different pillars of what I believe is essential to understand in order to create the best life. I feel like we could build a whole education framework around these 4 pillars. First is understanding your inner state. Second is understanding the process of creation. Third is understanding the 4 freedoms and creating a life to honor those 4 freedoms. And fourth is the 4 aspects of self. So before we jump into all of the doing and learning of education, I want to teach on below the iceberg. No, this isn't addressed as much in schools, but what is going on the inside is the biggest indicator of what will happen on the outside. And it just cannot be neglected. I want students in the academy to develop that vital self-awareness. I want to build this academy with a holistic approach to learning and to life. I'm genuinely interested in people being set for life, like mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, and in their most important relationships, all the things. And in order to do that, we must inspect what is going on underneath the surface. So in the academy, we will refer to what makes our inner experiences, which is first our body, which is all of what happens in our body, our physiology and sensations. Our mind, which is made up of our thoughts and beliefs. Our heart, which is our emotions and feelings. And our spirit, which is our awareness and connection to the higher self. So we use our awareness of what is going on inside of us to understand what we need and help and develop the skill to meet those needs. And as we meet those needs, we ascend into higher states of being. So we emerge from those lower survival, flight or flight states into states of peace, love, and joy. And the goal in the academy is to access a state of flow and connectedness, all those elevated emotions, peace, joy, love. A lot of what I want the academy to be is about understanding how we personally connect to this optimal state. How do we align our mind, our body, our heart to our truer states as creators? It is a state of being where creation and building the life we want is natural. In fact, it's our most natural state. It's who we really are. It's a state of love, connectedness, freedom, and creativity. And why don't we feel this amazing state most of the time? Even though it is our most natural and true state, our default state here on earth is one of mainly fear and victimhood, coping, and distraction. And I just want so much of the academy to remember our birthright and connect to that greater state. It is really a process of remembering and using our awareness to connect to those higher states. Because the truth is, we aren't all of our conditioning, our wounds, our traumas, our fears, our anxiety, OCD, or even our thoughts, emotions, or actions. Who we truly are at our deepest level is that loving awareness behind it all, ready to heal it and bring the mind and heart to its whole state, to its true divine state as a creator of our lives. And this is what I mean when I say set for life. That is a state. And it's bringing all 4 parts of our being into alignment to be set for life again. Which is when we are best set for creation, love, unity, oneness as we connect to our true self. The thing is, once we're there, we can create and learn all that we desire. All the areas of our lives improve simultaneously. However, when we are upset, our state, or when our state is dysregulated in a place of disconnect and vibrating at a level, that's who we really aren't. We must understand how to reset. Or we might just be offset, where we aren't necessarily upset, but feeling off and unmotivated and uninspired. Then 2, we must notice and find ways to reset. We must realign and connect to our highest, truest self again and be set for life. Anyway, I could go on and on. I'm excited to provide more tools and connections on how to develop the awareness to realign with your best self again and making it more your natural state. In fact, I made a whole course on this, and it's available on the site that helps you dive deeper on these concepts to achieve your goals. The course currently even comes with direct support and coaching from me right now. It will likely be a limited time that this is available, and I will be creating more content about this, so stay tuned however you are connected to me. Okay, that is the inner pillar state. That is the foundation of everything. Once we have that in balance, it's easier to optimize and master the creation of our outer experiences. Okay, the second pillar is the 4 phases of creation or building or learning, what have you. Notice I will use the number 4 throughout all of this. It is not only in the Academy name, but it also an easy way to remember all of these concepts. Okay, so there are 4. First is dreaming and discovering. We all have things that we are uniquely drawn to. In fact, I believe that we are all born with an innate genius that is waiting to be discovered and developed. It's important to create a safe and fun space where we can freely discover what we like and who we are. It should allow for lots of room for playing and exploring, dreaming, and discovering. So that's the first phase. The second phase is to gather and plan. So once we've had the chance to discover what we like and what we want to create, we need an opportunity to dive deeper and gather information and resources. Being able to organize and lay out our personal vision, we can then create a personalized map or plan that will help us create it. We can outline a unique path. Okay, third is the creation and doing and building. Next is time to move into inspired and informed action. This is where we can use our passions and our gathered informations, plans, and skills to make, build, or create something that can potentially create value and ultimately contribute to humanity. This could also include finding a way to sustain yourself and family financially, such as building a business. And fourth, which is a step I think most of us skip, it is crucial to actively continue to evaluate one's path. So it's reflect and rest. So it's all about evaluating, reflection to aid in continual improvement, and helps us adjust our life to align with our highest desires. Rest is crucial in creation. God himself rested. Nature rests and has periods of no production. It's all about rejuvenating our creative powers again. And I want it to be an integral part of our learning model for life. It's interesting because in my church group, they're actually teaching kids to follow a similar formula. In fact, they call it a pattern for growth, which I think is brilliant. I so appreciate that they're creating frameworks for children and youth to meet their own goals and desires. It's fantastic. I believe it's important to help youngsters become aware of this framework early and help them develop the understanding of themselves and guide them through this natural process, so they're continually developing themselves and their unique abilities. And honestly, I believe that this simple model is the natural learning process. We basically all do it. We're all curious about things. We want to learn more. We do research. We might find that we want to build or create something with the new information. Lastly, we evaluate if it's something that we want to continue to pursue or not. The goal is to blow this simple concept up to help guide the next generation of students to optimize their learning. And I will explain how more in detail later. For now, I created a couple digital files that I use for myself and my students to help define and clarify all these things. I call it Life Designer. It's basically a planner, but if there are types like me who hear that and are like adverse to planning, but open to dreaming and setting intention, then this is definitely for you. It's helped me tremendously with time blocking and creating more clarity around my day and my life. So I want to say that I tell my kids all the time that I built my whole business by just setting aside 1 or 2 dedicated hours, sometimes less, sometimes more. And I tell them this because it used to be that they got like an hour of video games, but now I encourage them to build something instead. It doesn't have to take that much time, but it does take focus and clarity on what you're trying to build. So that same business that I built using 1 or 2 hours a day is called Peekaboo, that bag business I referenced earlier. And I built it as a mom of 3 kids. And now it has equity partners invested in it because of the value created in that time. It's just crazy to think now that I built that in just remnants of time that I had. Imagine what you could build with just a bit more intention and dedication. I also have available this workbook called Book of Ideas and Plans for even more open-ended planning and dreaming. It's basically like a bullet journal with numbered pages that you can like reference. And there's some like prompts at the beginning for idea generating. It's perfect for like that kid market that I referenced earlier. I actually did an entrepreneur class where I used this workbook and we had a kid market at the end. So I know it's well suited for that. And this is just like a small, like printable digital thing that you can get started like right away if you need a little prompt or a little something to get going. It's definitely a great way to get started. Okay, the next pillar is all about being able to go about this like process of creation while still maintaining our personal freedoms. I want to be able to genuinely set people free as I work on claiming my own personal freedoms too, So I learned about the 4 freedoms through Dan Sullivan from Strategic Coaching. He's actually one of the authors that wrote 10x is easier than 2x. And if you haven't read that book, it like blew my mind. It's one of the few books I've read from like cover to cover, and I just could not get enough. Anyway, this is a concept that really stood out to me, and it was like it created such a mental shift for me. And I realized these personal freedoms is why I do most of what I do. And it wasn't until it was defined to me, I didn't know why I was doing what I did, Anyway, so the personal freedoms that he talks about are the freedom of time, the freedom of money, the freedom of relationships, and the freedom of purpose. And I feel like protecting and expanding our ability to access these freedoms is really what life is all about. So here's how Dan defines all those freedoms. See if these resonate with you. Okay. First, he describes the freedom of time. You want to spend your working life doing what you really enjoy doing. And also, you want to have this freedom to spend time not working too. So you can have a full life and pursue your other interests. Then there's freedom of money. You don't want a ceiling on how much money you can make for doing a great job, for coming up with a valuable new solution or inventions. And if your efforts generate money, you don't want anyone dictating how much of that money you can keep. Okay, then there's freedom of relationship. There are certain people you love working with, both inside and outside your business, and you want to spend more and more of your time surrounded by just these people that you click with, whom you appreciate and whom appreciate you. And then there's freedom of purpose. This entrepreneurial company that you've created is not just a job or a career. It's actually a vehicle to all sorts of things that relate to your fundamental values and ideals in life. This allows you to have a tremendous sense of purpose for being on this planet. Entrepreneurs are the greatest contributors of money, opportunity, and capability to communities all over the world in every field of human activity. He goes on to say, when you lose sight of these four freedoms, that's when you start hitting barriers and encounter complexity. At any time, though, you can bring your focus back to expanding these freedoms and find that your life immediately gets simpler, your decisions, actions, and communications become clearer, and you experience continual growth. End of quote. Yeah, so Dan does focus on building businesses. And I do believe there's room to work for other people as a way to get the experience we need, the skills we need, even the finances that we need. And I will say that to truly expand on all those freedoms in the most optimal way, it does become important to build your own dream and vehicle, aka a business. You might hear that and be turned off because is that really what we have to do? Here's a thought. You can either spend your time building your own dream or you can get paid to build somebody else's dream. You can choose your path or you can be assigned one. And hopefully I can show you how simple and awesome and powerful it is to doing your own thing and really aligning with your purpose and your visions is. And here's another big Set for Life idea. I think kids and teens should be given the chance to build something of their own. Not only is there so much learning and personal growth in that process, but I believe doing it earlier in life is so valuable. So I think a lot of the reasons why adults don't venture off to do their own thing, it's because, they weren't really given a chance to even think about it until they're in their 20s. And often even way later when it becomes harder and harder, we typically aren't given support or encouragement through our schooling years, unless maybe your parents were entrepreneurs and they really fueled that. We are told to focus on getting good grades, to get a good job. Most of our education is receiving assignments from teachers about different subjects that may or may not align with our passion or purpose. And there definitely is lip service around following your dreams and passions, but often very little time and support to actually do so. So when we finally graduate from high school and then do college, we might be lucky enough to build something of our own in our 20s or after. However, the risk just keeps increasing. With rising responsibility and payments, it just becomes so risky to venture out to do something on our own because first, we simply lack the time and the experience. And now we have a bunch of bills to pay and very likely even a family to raise and provide for. Not to mention everyone around you asking, if you do go out and do your own thing, everyone's going to be questioning, when are you going to get a real job? In general, most adults have already become so risk adverse. And I see this everywhere, So I was lucky that in my situation, I did have an entrepreneurial mom. So that was a natural path. Also, even though I had a family, I had a husband at the time that was a full-time provider. So I had a chance to putter around in a bunch of things with the remnants of time left as a stay-at-home parent. And that's also the case with everyone. We all have at least an hour of our time in our hands that we can putter around. But my thought is, wouldn't it be amazing if kids and teens got the chance to putter around and get real world experience of building something real that could bring in actual money while they were still at home without the risk and responsibility of paying for a house and before they had to fully adult. Think about it. Kids who have the chance to explore and fail 100 times freely. In fact, in this academy, it would be encouraged. Failing just means you're trying. And the more we fail and get back up, the more we learn and build that resilience. In fact, I want to reframe failure entirely because it isn't even a failure. Basically, all of life and especially business is an experiment. We're just trying to figure out what's working and what doesn't work. And it can actually be really fun and nothing is personal. We can just move forward as we learn through this experiment of what is working. So think about it. By the time they're ready to leave the house, graduated, they could already have either a successfully running company or be on the verge of their greatest success. I can't tell you how much trial and error a business takes. And to have that already underneath your belt, that would be fabulous. And even more support. I haven't even started talking about the best part, how we would pull this off just yet. Just wait. Okay, so this is the very last pillar. And I just felt it was important to add this because if we don't keep these areas in balance, other areas suffer. And it's the four main areas, and I'm sure you've heard them, but I do want to touch on each of them. So the mental, how do we develop our intellect and optimize our learning? The physical is so important. I feel like for me, physical is such a way to connect to my body. And it's about like moving your body and training your body and developing like a healthy routine to make sure that our body stays active to maintain our health. And also just health and nutrition and everything would be included in that physical area. Social, how do we build and maintain healthy relationships? And spiritual, how do we connect to that higher self to receive the needed guidance? So yes, I'm serious about wanting to create a well-balanced life. All these pillars actually relate and affect each other. So part of the academy is to try to integrate all this and, provide some guidance on how to do that. Okay, so how do I hope to flesh all this big idea, all these concepts out into an academy? Really, I don't think we need anything special to start. You literally could use and implement these concepts right away in your home. It's what I want for families and grown-ups and kids. I want to share these ideas here so you can see the possibility and then have a framework that can inspire and guide you. Another way I can help you is through kind of just the digital resources that I'm mentioning. And I make these resources first and foremost for myself and my family because I use them as a tool and I notice that they could be helpful and they work. I also iterate and refine these principles and workbooks and use them with my students that I'm working with because once I know they're a reliable resource, once I've used it. And I make it so it's like useful for everyone, like even scattered brain neurodivergent minds like mine and a lot of students that I work with. So everything I built is because I see it as a tool and I know it would be helpful for me. And by the time it's actually available to you, I've refined it to a point where I feel like it could be used for a lot of people. Mentorship. One resource that I want for the Set4life Academy is to be able to connect students with mentors. I want mentors from all sorts of backgrounds and experiences, careers and paths and passions to be able to connect with students and to be someone that is just a couple steps ahead to guide them and help them build something that they're genuinely excited about. So a mentor would be different than a teacher in that they would not be there to like lecture or give predetermined assignments. A mentor would be in charge of finding out and listening to what really excites the student and discovering with the student a project that they could build together. Again, it would be student-led and mentor-guided. The mentor would help ask the right questions, give appropriate prompts, share insights and resources to keep the student on track, motivated, and engaged. So if you or you know someone that would be interested in supporting the Set4life vision by sharing your talents and transferring skills to the younger generation or less experienced in your field, by creating something together, please contact me. I'm currently developing a mentoring program to help do this. And also, there'll be opportunities for junior mentors. I'm so excited about this. It's like everyone help each other. I think this is the way the original village and community was set up. It's such a natural thing, but right now I'm creating these opportunities for to reestablish these natural connections, right? So I also am thinking junior mentor. So if you have a son or daughter that is skilled in some way, I can think of my kids, they're already developing some skills and they don't have to be experts, right? But if they have some skills, they're already ready to give some guidance to a student that's less experienced than them. It's a super amazing growth opportunity for both the mentor and the students. Students mentoring students, that would just be the coolest thing ever. So for both of these, I'll drop a link where there is a form that you can sign up, or if you have any interest, or even if you have questions, just reach out to me, because I'd love to work with you. Okay, so what about the entrepreneur business part? So for this part of the program, I want to have specialized mentors that know how to help scale a business because they've already have experience doing it. Wouldn't it be amazing to have early access to building a business and having an experienced person help you scale it? And I was thinking, once it gets to a certain scale, there might even be a consideration for these mentors to be equity partners to help invest and grow the business in a real world way. It'd be like a mini incubator for youngsters to do real world things and have real world people invest in their ideas. I'm so excited for this. Okay, can you see the vision? All the mentors would be trained in this Set4life Academy way to help improve all areas of life. Mentally, emotionally, socially, even spiritually. And I need to put in a plug for spirituality, because I can't tell you how much of a spiritual process building and growing something bigger than you is. It just requires so much personal growth, but also trust and connection to something bigger and higher than yourself. It requires faith and trust, learning how to be guided spiritually. I believe this is one of our biggest purposes as human beings, and I want to fulfill that through this academy, connecting to our true spiritual selves by healing. I believe building something huge is an incredible mechanism for healing. By doing this, we get to face all our biggest fears when we set big aspirations like this. We get to find out what we're really made of. And the good news is that we get to find out it's not fear. We get to experience ourselves as the light, love, and intelligence we really are. We get to share that with others through our contributions. We get to create deliberate conditions for our own personal growth through the creation of our vision. All doing this while preserving our personal freedoms of building sustainable wealth, increasing our access to time so we can build and enjoy relationships we choose, and live life aligned with our personal purpose. Oh my gosh, this just gives me the chills. I hope you're feeling this vision too. There's just so much more to come. And as a sneak peek, just imagine, this is what I'm kind of thinking, worldwide conferences to connect with other creators and mentors at different places around the world each year. I'd love to have an actual learning center at some point. I want to build a nature playground for kiddos to explore in a natural way. I want to have access to all sorts of living things and animals so we can connect to our natural habitat easily, because it helps us connect to our primary state as creators. And looping back to the beginning of my story, I especially want to help the neurodivergent that otherwise struggle in traditional settings, like my PDA son, and help them see themselves as the superstars they are. It makes me want to cry. All the things I've learned from my son, and it's amazing to have watched him struggle so very hard and see him light up and thriving now. He literally went from by far the most difficult child that I have to my quote unquote easiest, because I finally understood him and his needs. He went from refusing everything to willingly choosing into things that were good for him, most of which were shocking, really, based on how he's operated in the past. I want to do a whole episode on this. Anyway, to end this episode. I hope you'll join me on this journey. I feel a strong pulse to do this, and maybe you will feel that call too. Or maybe you're just a little curious about this crazy idea and vision I have. Maybe you'll learn a few things for yourself and your family. Maybe you'll participate in big ways in the academy. I'm looking for it all. You can peek through the window a bit. You can dip your toe, or you can take the plunge. Anyway, you do it. No, I'll be here for you. Here for you, for families, for the future of our dear world. I have loads of hope for it. Thanks for joining me today.